Lexington elected 2 new state representatives to serve the city in Frankfort this week, passing the torch from 2 longtime lawmakers who did not seek re-election. Bodie Brooks sat down with them to learn more about the ideas they're bringing to the Capitol. Bodie.
Yeah, Monty. Lindsey Burke and Aull are the 2 Democrats elected to represent the 75th and 79th House districts. Republicans fielded no candidates in either of those races, which means after both of their landslide wins in the primaries, they are now on their way to Frankfort. In the State House, Lexington has some new leaders.
I don't want to go to Frankfort just to fight with the other side and say no. I actually would like to get some things done.
I'm doing as much as I can for one person or one family at a time, but being a representative will allow me to impact more people.
Both Democrats, Aull and Lindsey Burke, aren't jaded about the uphill battle they'll face to achieve some of their legislative priorities, but are open to bipartisanship.
If I hear a proposal from a Republican that I think is a solid proposal, then I'm going to support it.
I expect to be an active member of the legislature, putting my name on several bills, sponsoring several bills, and I'm going to sponsor bills that I know we're not going to pass, but they're still the right types of pieces of legislation to try to pass.
Aull has a background in agriculture and IT. In addition to guiding policy in these areas, he's also prioritizing public education.
We need to fully fund our public schools first. We need to expand pre-K education, and then we need to really fund our state-funded universities back to the levels they were previously.
Burke has worked as a social worker and attorney and operates a nonprofit to make legal services more accessible. The most important issue to her, affordable housing.
So many other problems can't be properly addressed if someone doesn't know where they're going to sleep tonight or they're worried that they're going to be evicted by the end of the month.
Capping prescription prices, funding public schools, and taking care of the environment are other priorities on her platform.
I'm really excited to get to work for the people of Kentucky.
And my door is always open, and I look forward to hearing from you.
The current representatives in those seats, Susan Westrom and Kelly Flood, will fill out their terms through the rest of this year. Aull and Burke will be sworn in at the beginning of 2023, just in time for the legislative session. Imani?